What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on nootropics and biohacking and everything related to health. Thanks so much for being with me, guys. Hey, we're going to do some audio podcasts over the course of the next couple days. I'm not in the Cortex Labs office doing videos, so these are going to be cool. We're going to try to spruce them up and make them really cool looking and just get you guys a lot of information now over the course of the next couple days via these podcasts. So I want to quick mention a couple things before we talk about testosterone, because what I want to talk about is the questions that I ask people that you need to ask yourself if you're looking to improve testosterone. When we do testosterone consults with folks, there's a very specific set of questions. And these are questions that, you sort of need to ask yourself so you can identify why you have low test, if in fact you have low test, if it's something else causing like sex drive and libido problems and everything else in between. In the meantime, two major things. Right now, I know folks are a little apprehensive to spend money, so we discounted everything at livecortex.com. Okay, that is all of our digital books, all of our courses, and most of our consults, to include the Nootropics Consult. You just have to use the coupon code 20, and that takes 20% off of everything at livecortex.com. Now is probably the best time to be getting courses like the Nootropics Masterclass, which is essentially taking you from wherever you are in nootropics usage to about the 6-year mark. That's the Masterclass. It's a video course, so that coupon code applies to that. Probably the next best thing would be the Nootropics Ground Zero course. Nootropics Ground Zero is a course that really, out of your guys' request, I created that's intended to take you from brand new, having no idea what to do with nootropics, too much disparate information on the web, to the pro level, which is the 3-year mark. Nootropics Ground Zero is a video course, and that is also 20% off using the coupon code 20. Last thing I want to quick mention for you guys, we just launched a 1-month intensive nootropics consult. This might be one of the best things for those of you that have the budget to get a lot of work in with me over the course of a month. It's unlimited calls, unlimited emails. We ship you stacks. We work with you in a very hyper way to dial in nootropic formulations for you. It's the 1-month intensive nootropics consult. It's $1,000 you can get at the homepage at livecortex.com. And remember, everything else at livecortex.com is 20% off using the coupon code 20. Go get some stuff. All right, so I want to talk about testosterone, and I want to kind of give you guys a glimpse into the questions that I ask people on testosterone consults, because these are important questions you have to ask yourself. I mean, if you're self-biohacking testosterone levels, then you got to ask yourself some important questions. So I want to run through what I talk to people about in the beginning, kind of the fact-finding process, because every one of the consults that we do, whether nootropics or test or chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue or whatever, there's a fact-finding process, right? That gives me an idea of what we need to target. So here is the process with test. Number one, the first question is, when did you start noticing symptoms of low test? Did you have like low sex drive? Were you feeling like you're less strong in the gym? Did it take you longer to recover in the gym? Did you feel like, sleeping for considerable periods of time didn't restore your energy? When did you start noticing the symptoms? And I think the important thing to ask around that time is if you have a particular time frame, and most men do, what was going on then? What was happening? Were you overtraining at the time? Were you going to the gym 5-6 days a week doing heavy compound lifts like deadlifting or squatting? Because in those situations, you're just jacking cortisol through the roof. And cortisol is like a seesaw with testosterone. The higher cortisol is, the lower test is. I mean, it's just very, very clear that that's the case. So were you overtraining? Around the time that this happened, you started noticing symptoms. What was your diet like, specifically in a breakdown of macronutrients? A lot of people have been following a lot of what I believe is bad advice on the internet, especially around the paleo crowd, around macronutrient intake and eating, basically skimping on carbohydrates. People going lower than 50 grams of carbs a day, going VLC, which is very low carb, and that's absolutely atrocious to testosterone production. Were you on a calorically restricted diet? Did you skimp on calories to lose weight for a considerable period of time? without refeed breaks, because that's a critical thing. I mean, dieting is fine. Like, everyone wants to lose fat. If you want to lose fat, you got to be in continuous caloric restriction. But with days that you add in to be at maintenance or to be in some sort of 100 to 200 calorie surplus, continuous caloric restrictions will boost cortisol and then lower test. So what was happening around the time? Did you get into a car accident? Like, did something crazy happen in your life? Were you under a lot of stress? Again, focusing on cortisol. What was going on? Another major question that I like to ask folks is what medications were you taking? Were you on SSRIs particularly? Because as we all know, and for those of you that haven't figured this out yet, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors are agonizing a particular receptor, 5-HT1A receptor, in a way that the autoreceptor, which is the regulatory receptor, sort of gets desensitized, and then the RAF nucleus, which is where serotonin is produced, has no idea how much serotonin to produce. And then you run into essentially a serotonin derangement syndrome, which is producing entirely too much serotonin in certain regions of your brain. And that is antithetical to testosterone. It's really specifically antithetical to the serotonin dopamine system. When that's out of whack, particularly having extremely high serotonin and constantly agonizing the 1A receptor without any type of feedback mechanism on the other side in the postsynaptic receptor, then you end up with libido problems. And you can even have high test, like extremely high test, but libido issues because you've got serotonin issues. So that's one of the main questions. What medications were you on? So that's a question that you have to be asking yourself. Current dietary protocols. That's the next question. What are you eating now? Okay. Have you spent a lot of time consuming Dave Asprey's content on Bulletproof Executive or the Bulletproof blog, and you've gotten guidance to eat super, super high fat? Look, fat's critical for hormone production. It is. Saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, very critical even for testosterone production. Cholesterol is critical for testosterone production. The thing is, though, is if your macronutrient breakdown is disproportionately fats over protein and carbohydrates, you're not getting enough carbohydrates to help you to adequately balance cortisol, to help you to adequately balance the cortisol testosterone ratio. So low carb is just terrible. What is your current dietary protocol? You have to look at that. And then, of course, lastly, have you had it tested? Okay, when is the last time that you tested it? For a lot of guys that think they have low tests, it could be other things going on. It could be some sort of dopamine derangement. A lot of people that have been taking Adderall for a considerable period of time, they got burnt out dopamine receptors, and that signaling doesn't work. So, like, essentially, the brain reproductive signaling for libido essentially is not functioning. So you sort of have to know what are your numbers. Okay, is it actually low testosterone, or is it a serotonin dopamine problem, or is it some sort of other issue? Asking those questions gets you a sort of a benchmark and a baseline from which to make decisions. Then you have to make decisions on exactly which areas to target. Like, through the fact-finding process, if we figured out that you've done some blood tests and somewhere along the way, like sex hormone binding globulin is too high and you have to lower that, or you've got high prolactin levels and you got to lower those, or the conversion of testosterone to estrogen is like on hyperdrive, then you have to look at essentially natural aromatase inhibitors, things like stinging nettle root that allow you to essentially keep your testosterone and prevent it from converting to estrogen. And then, of course, the rest of it is then going in terms of the Viking testosterone protocol, it's then going into the protocol, which, depending on the guy and depending on the fact-finding process, is usually 7 to 9 highly effective things. So that's it. If you're somebody that's trying to biohack testosterone, you have to ask yourself all these questions. When did you start noticing symptoms? Around that time, what was happening? What was your training regimen like? Was it entirely too intense? Were you on a low-carb diet? Were you on caloric restriction? Were you taking medications? And were those medications affecting serotonin or dopamine? What is your current dietary protocol? Are you skimping on carbs, eating too much fat, not eating enough protein? Like, all those really generally have to be pretty balanced. And then obviously, have you tested it? Testing it is one of the most important things you can do when trying to figure it out, so that you have a benchmark. And so you can distinguish between an actual testosterone issue and a serotonin or dopamine derangement issue, which could also produce pretty much identical symptoms to having low testosterone. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Hope that's been helpful for you folks. We're going to do more audio, essentially audio videos, like audio podcasts in the days to come over the next couple days while I'm away from the Cortex Lab studio and the infamous green screen. So pay attention to those. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Remember, 20% off everything at livecortex.com. Just use the coupon code 20. A couple folks are complaining that there's like 6 or 7 different coupon codes for all of our products, so we just simplified it with the coupon code 20, which takes 20% off of everything. Probably the best thing to do right now is just stack up on information on nootropics. All of our digital books discounted. All of our courses discounted. The most prominent courses you should be paying attention to right now are either the Nootropics Masterclass or Nootropics Ground Zero. For those of you that are like brand new and just still trying to figure this stuff out, just do yourself a favor and go get Nootropics Ground Zero. Use the coupon code 20. It takes 20% off of that product. It's a video course, and have at it. Again, last thing, we just launched the 1-month intensive nootropics program. It's a consult with me, very, very intensive. Lots of calls, lots of emails, us formulating you stacks, mailing you stacks, working with you in a very hyper acute way to nail down at least 10 formulations that you can rotate between that are targeted toward your brain and your productivity, so you can maximize productivity and do whatever it is you need to do, especially during this wacky time with COVID-19. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Use the coupon code 20 for 20% off of everything. More audios to come. We'll talk to you next time.